Hello, I'm Bud McCord. I'm here in Brazil, South America. Hope you're ready for another study in 1 John. We're in chapter 5. We're coming to the end of this beautiful book, this letter that was sent to a church that was in crisis. And it has been a blessing for me to Monday through Friday awaken early and think through these thoughts that came from the Apostle John. So I'm sure I'm the one who benefited the most from this study, but hopefully something has been useful for you as well. We're going to begin in verse 5 where we left off in chapter 5, where these incredible words are said by the Apostle Paul about every believer, a capacity that we have. It says, "Who is he who overcomes the world, but he who believes that Jesus is the Son of God?" Jesus changes everything, or Jesus changes nothing. The whole scriptures come to this conclusion. Everything that is said, especially in the Gospels, everything that we as Christians have been declaring for the last 2,000 years, they all come to nothing if Jesus is not the Son of God. Now, he goes on and he tells us that there is enough testimony that has been given in the world, clear testimonial evidence, for us to rest and tell the truth also to ourselves and to others that Jesus changes everything. Jesus can change everyone and change back to the original plan that God had for humanity. This is no small statement. Listen to what he says in verses 6 through 9. "This is he," Jesus, "this is he who came by water and blood, Jesus Christ. Not only by water, but by water and blood. And it is the Spirit who bears witness, because the Spirit is truth. For there are three that bear witness in heaven, the Father, the Word, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. And these three are one. And there are three that bear witness on earth, the Spirit of God, the water, and the blood. And these three agree as one. If we receive the witness of men, the witness of God is greater. For this is the witness of God, which he has testified of his Son." When I was reading through this passage yesterday, last night, and again this morning, it became clear to me that we live in a world that demands evidence. To this day, we decide people's guilt or innocence by evidence. And we have systems, depending on the world, the country in which we live, of how many people will be on a jury, for example, or what a judge can judge and condemn and to set free. It's got to be based on testimony. So God, who created us, knows that we don't rest until we actually believe that we have found the evidence, the true evidence about the reality of life. Now, it's interesting that he says here in verse 6, "This is he who came by water and by blood." Now, to be honest with you, as I read commentaries about this particular passage, it became a little bit disconcerting and a little bit confusing because there's so many different views. The views that most seem to connect with me and my understanding of the Apostle John and of the Gospel of John is that water and blood are a symbol in the whole history of every human being, because we know that if our blood stops pumping, we die. We also know that when we came into this world, we each came into this world soon after the water broke in the delivery process in the life of our mother, which was also our life at the same time happening. The idea of blood, water and blood, are two essential testimonies. They're testimonies that we have been here. If if I'm in a place and someone finds a bit of my DNA, they can say, the testimony says, you have been here. If there is an account of my birth, a birth certificate, then I have gone through this process of water and I've gone through this process of blood. There's some who thinks he's referring here to when Jesus died on the cross and they pierced his side. The Bible said they would not break his bones, and that was a prophecy because a sacrificial animal could not be disfigured like that in that way. But they pierced his side and there came out water and blood. And some say that that's because his heart exploded during the crucifixion. So it's having died on the cross for us in public and manifesting that he was truly dead by the water and the blood, which showed that he had not just swooned or had been faking something, if that had been possible, that kind of pain. It was evidence. But it also says that in the Spirit bears witness. In my life and your life, we can say, I believed in Jesus. We can say, no, I made up my mind to believe in Jesus. But in the scriptures, it says that no man or woman can declare that Jesus is the true Son of God if God had not given that person by the Holy Spirit the illumination to understand and believe the evidence. So there is evidence. There's the evidence of the water, the life, Jesus' birth. So interesting that in the Gospels, they take a lot of time with Jesus' birth because he has to come into this world like all of us come into this world, as every human being has come into this world. And there was a question then even of water and blood. Also, he had to give this water to us. And he had to give his blood at Calvary. You know, remember when he says to the Samaritan woman that he could be living water in her if she would just believe in him. Believe his testimony, believe his life, believe his works. And so this whole idea of water and blood and spirit, they testify. Now, when we line this up and we say, I believe in the virgin birth of Jesus Christ, that's a pivotal, foundational principle of the idea of the incarnation. I believe that Jesus came into this world through his mother, Mary, who had been conceived by the Holy Spirit. You see the connection? And when her time to deliver, the water broke and she delivered the Son of God. And then he lays his life down and she's watching as he dies on the cross. And you can just say, this is evidence. This is evidence. But the evidence in my heart is that there's something in my heart that is drawn to this testimony. Is drawn to this testimony. In any courtroom, if you've ever served on a jury or you've ever been involved in a court process, you know that the jury needs to be convinced. And in the United States, for instance, there's this high standard. It must be a unanimous decision, or the person goes free. There wasn't enough evidence. Well, Jesus is the evidence. He is the testimony. And it's interesting, too, that this idea, when we get to the book of Acts and the Holy Spirit comes on the church that's waiting on the power to come from God, he says, you will be my witnesses. You will be my witnesses. You will go out into all the world and make disciples. And so in a sense, we all have to take out into the world the story of Jesus' birth, the water, the story of Jesus' life, which was with his Father and with the Spirit. And then we have to tell the world the evidence is true, and Jesus is risen from the dead, and he has overcome death. And so the apostle is telling this church here for them to settle this question of how much Jesus changes. And for them to be at peace, and for you to be at peace, and for me to be at peace, I have to say, Jesus changes everything for me and changes everything in me, because he is all and is in all. The evidence is in. The evidence has been given by water, by blood, by the Holy Spirit. The evidence has been given by the Church of Jesus Christ from every believer who has preached the gospel and made disciples. It's been going on now for almost 2,000 years, and the evidence has not been defeated. The evidence of Jesus' power to change lives, like he changed my life and changed your life, has already come in. Jesus changes everything. The only other alternative is Jesus changes nothing. What does the Spirit say to you? What is the verdict? What is the testimony that has changed everything in you? And then that faith allows you to overcome the world. Who is he who overcomes the world but he who believes that Jesus is the Son of God? It's really an absolutely beautiful part of this letter. I really encourage you that you would think through this. If you want to read commentaries, you certainly can find that out. But I think that if you will just look at the person of Jesus, his birth, his life, his death, his resurrection, and what the Spirit has shown you, I think you'll say, I know what my verdict is. Jesus is the Son of God, and he changes everything equally for all who believe. God bless you. Have a great day.